Hi, and welcome to Filmmakers Compass Podcast, a show where we talk about movies and, well, more movies.
Whoa,
I'm
no, D-Man. No. We used to talk about movies, but we're not going to do it anymore because Hollywood is dead.
Whoa. They are so dead that you felt like interrupting my intro.
Yeah, your intro. It's done. In fact, we'll probably not call this Filmmakers Compass. We'll probably just call this People Who Sit on Their Couch and Watch Things That We Used to Call Movies podcast.
Oh, wow. This episode's going to be testy. I can already feel it. Your energy is through the roof, and I'm going to have to step it up if I want to match that. But if it helps, I do have a Christmas shirt on with Darth Vader wearing a Santa hat, and I have a Christmas tree behind me. So I'm at least trying to theme correctly for this time of year. So hopefully that helps.
Definitely helps. Always appreciated, D-Man.
I mean, I love that you're wearing a Santa hat, but you're giving Grinch vibes.
I'm not sure if we're allowed to say Grinch on this podcast because for all I know it's copywritten, but the point is I'm definitely a little bit more of kind of, an Ebenezer Scrooge when it comes to the future of the movies.
All right, well, we're going to get into it, CP, so hang on to that energy. Don't let it fly away. But before we do, as always, we do have shout outs. So first up this week, CP, I want to give a huge shout out to my family for hosting Steph and I on a great vacation and trip back home to the Midwest. It was fantastic.
Nice, dude. I saw the pictures. It looked amazing, and it sure sounds like you had a lot of fun.
Well, here's the thing. Honestly, there was a snowstorm the night we flew in, and essentially Indiana in the Midwest looked like a winter wonderland. It literally looked like in A Christmas Story on Christmas morning when Ralphie wakes up and goes to his window and looks out of his window, and it's like a magical snow-covered Indiana. That was what we had. It was awesome. And I just wanted to give a shout out. This is a movie podcast. So when I was back there, I got to watch The Holiday and Home Alone. And third, if we had time, we were going to watch Die Hard, but we got The Holiday and Home Alone in. So that was fun.
No time for Die Hard.
Well, it's actually my mom's.
Put Dustin on the naughty list.
Shout out to my mom because that's her favorite movie. So
yes.
That's actually not just her favorite Christmas movie. I think her two favorite movies of all time are Weekend at Bernie's and Die Hard.
Okay, first of all, D-Man, I've known your mom for most of my life. How did I not know she loved Die Hard?
Well, here's the thing. She only watches it like with us, and she doesn't really use social media and post about any of this. So unless I tell you, pretty much, I don't think you would know.
Yeah. Well, the next time I see your mom, I'll be like, yo, Ms. Garbasiak, let's watch some Die Hard.
Definitely. And she'll be down because that's like her favorite movie. So next up on our shoutouts, in one of our chats, Boone shared the first artwork of the live action Zelda movie, and he had this to say. I mean, they put some effort behind Super Mario and Minecraft, and both of those hit with youth. If they don't double down on Zelda, there's something wrong with them. So we've talked about this before, the horrible track record of video game adaptations into live action movies. And what he named Mario specifically is an animated version, which probably tends to do a little bit better. I mean, you remember the live action Super Mario.
Oh, I do.
There is the Minecraft movie, and there's been a couple other movies that have done pretty well. I think Boone actually goes on to reference Fallout, which is a television show on Prime, but not necessarily a movie. They've done pretty good.
What about Sonic? Sonic the Hedgehog? Boone
Sonic's
never saw
got
that
a
one?
trilogy going. Yeah, I think he mentioned Sonic. I mean, that's pretty strong. Even if Sonic isn't necessarily totally faithful to the gameplay of Sonic the Hedgehog, it was a successful film franchise based on that IP and that character. So, I mean, It did work. And it kind of maybe laid the template for how you can translate video games. Like maybe it's not necessarily like, hey, we want to watch a side-scrolling Sonic on the big screen. It's like, we love the character.
Yeah.
So bring that to life.
Yep.
So as far as live action Zelda, I don't know which story they're actually adapting. Like, is it going to be like Ocarina of Time or the original Legend of Zelda? I don't know. I am curious though, because I love that franchise. And I feel like if given, sort of the Lord of the Rings treatment, it could be pretty epic, but it could also end up like, what was it, Dungeons and Dragons?
Well, I feel like the problem with Zelda is they're gonna make a Zelda movie based around the game and the story, right?
Yeah,
As opposed to what I think have been the really successful ones, like, if we just take Mario and Sonic, both of those you're saying this is a character people love. Let's make movies about these characters.
yeah, yeah,
And the problem is, I think to do a Zelda game justice, you have to give an expansive amount of time for Link to be questing, and I don't think we're
right.
gonna get that.
Plus, I mean, the gameplay is dungeons and bosses and all that. So, I mean, I
Yeah,
don't know
yeah,
how all that
puzzles.
translates,
Yeah,
in particular. But I mean, with, like I said, something like Lord of the Rings being a template for how to do high fantasy on, on the big screen live action, if it got something like that, maybe Zelda could be epic as hell. Maybe better than Lord of the Rings, dare I say.
maybe.
All right, next up on our shout outs is Ivor, who said CP is correct.
I
And
love hearing that from you, Ivor.
I'm going to say Ivor is wrong. No, Ivor, you're right. Actually, CP was correct in this case. Kiss Kiss Bang Bang may be the best non-Christmas movie. I also like that putting a short Christmas tree in a police station tells you the time of year in First Blood, which
100%.
CP was right. I'm going to have to admit it on this one. So well done, Ivor. And well done, CP. And Anthony actually chimed in on that, saying he did not know this about First Blood and replied, did not know this, blew my mind. Uh, of which then CP, I replied with a gift from Die Hard that was like, welcome to the party, pal. So that was fun. Drucker chimed in and said, just watched my first holiday movie, Die Hard. Nailed it. Love it, Drucker. Of the season last night, and I'm all aboard the CP bandwagon now. Okay, guys, this is getting ridiculous. Uh,
I appreciate it. Thank you, Drucker, for being on the right side of history here.
yeah, he said, glad you're educating him about Munich. Also, that movie scratch off poster sounds legit. And I actually agree. That was, of all the gifts and things that we talked about, that was one of the coolest ones. Like, if you're doing
That
like a
would be
date
fun.
night or
Yeah,
you have a movie night, that seems like it'd be awesome, especially with streaming, because it's not hard to come by those movies these days. Where I could see back in the day, like, you'd go to like Blockbuster and they don't have, the vault of all the movies. You're like, eh. But
yeah, for sure. So
Drucker also, CP shared a photo and he had FCP as his top podcast in
yes,
2025.
dude,
So
Drucker, thank you.
thank you, Drucker.
Always
That's
appreciated.
that's amazing. Now he does go on to say, top podcast, baby, LOL. But pretty sure it's the only podcast I listen to. But hey, if you're only going to listen to one, I'm glad you made it Filmmakers Compass. We love you, Drucker. So thank you. Um, and then CP. I gotta ask you, did you hear the news about Star Wars?
Heard a lot of news about Star
Please
Wars.
say you heard this news. They are, for the 50th anniversary in 2027, they are
Yes,
re-releasing original Star Wars in theaters.
yes,
Now, here's the
amazing.
catch. Did you hear what day?
No, what day?
February 19th,
Oh
my
my
birthday.
gosh, I did not. D-Man.
Star Wars turns 50 and D-Man turns 40 and we're going to celebrate in the theater. If you want to go, I'm going to buy like a whole bunch of tickets and anybody that wants to go see the original Star Wars with me on the big screen is in. So Drucker, you want to fly out here? Ivor, you want to go? We're going to the
We're
movies for
doing it,
my
dude.
40th birthday.
Dude, we gotta buy the tickets. I'm so psyched about this. Yes, we're definitely going. Because this is a version that hasn't been shown since the 70s.
It's the
That you can't
19
even find like
Yeah.
on most DVDs and everything.
Well, for reference, this is not Star Wars A New Hope. This is just Star Wars,
Yes.
the original version. And I've actually never seen this on the big screen. I only have that
Mo-
2003.
Was that
uh
like the Malaysian version
yeah,
DVD
it
that
was
you
like
bought?
I bought one. It was the old school one, and that's the only version I had on DVD. So it was pretty great. I've seen it, but never on the big screen. And how about that, CP? My favorite movie of all time is dropping on my birthday. I
Oh
mean,
my,
I
I'm so excited, dude.
I can't even believe it myself. And on that note, we also got a reminder from Ivor that Endgame is coming back to theaters on September 26th in 2026 on your left.
Yes.
So thank you, Ivor, for the reminder, because obviously I would love to capture the magic of seeing Avengers Endgame on the big screen again. It was sort of a big theater moment that I think if you were there, you're always going to talk about it because it was so
Yep.
unique
Because it
to,
happened. Yeah.
yeah, 10 years worth of storytelling build up all to get that release in that moment where Sam calls in and he's like, Cap, Cap, on your left. And then the
Yep.
portals open and the
Yep.
music hits, and you're like, this is amazing. So to get to experience that again on the big screen would be fantastic.
How fun.
And that does it, CP, for our shout outs this week. Take us into our box office breakdown.
Oh boy. All right, folks. It is time for our box office breakdown. D-Man,
Yes.
I gotta ask, when's the last time you've been to the movies?
Still on delays. As I mentioned, I went back to Indiana this past week to visit with my family. I was fortunate enough to meet my new nephew and my new niece and visit with my grandparents and do holiday stuff with my family. So it was fantastic, but we didn't hit the movies. It was a lot of travel. I hit 4 states: Indiana, Ohio, Illinois, and Michigan.
Nice.
And I also made trips to downtown South Bend and Notre Dame. Now, what does this have to do
Nice.
with the movies? It has to do with the omission of the movies. We watched everything at home, CP. We didn't hit the theaters.
Well, guess that's fair.
So let
Point is, I have
what
not been
was
to the
in the theaters?
theaters
Yeah.
in a little while either. So, number five, previously number three in the box office. Now You See Me, Now You Don't.
Okay. Great run. Great run. They
And
probably
that
made a
has
lot of money.
ended up, yeah, the total gross for that is over 200 million. So I think Lionsgate's got to be pretty happy about that.
Right? Like you think that
Turn that
movie
into a
cost more?
franchise, not what I was expecting to be a franchise. So good job.
You think that cost more than 100 million to make? That'd be crazy to me.
No way. I mean, it's Lionsgate, so it's probably under 50.
Yeah, so they got to be in the black here. Even if, you're not raking it, it's got to be positive.
Yep. Number four, premiering for the first time
Oh,
this
okay.
last
A new
week,
movie.
Jujutsu Kaisen Execution.
Now, you didn't feel compelled to go see that.
I have not gone to see anything. I would have gone to see Kill Bill, the whole bloody affair, and I did not see that either. So, uh,
Damn, what is
Jujutsu
going on at
Kaisen made
CP?
$40 million. So awesome.
That's
Way
pretty
to
good
go.
too.
Number three, Wicked for Good. Now, the total gross of Wicked for Good. Any guess, D-Man?
I mean, dare I say 600 million? Is it that
Nah,
high?
it's not that high yet. It's not that high yet. It's about 450 million. So,
Okay.
you know,
So good, not great. That actually does strike me as a movie that probably costs upwards of 200 million. And especially you saw the marketing campaign. It was well worth it. I feel like the word got out, but it is a movie that if you haven't seen the first part or don't care about the Wizard of Oz, I think it's very
hmm
easy to be like, no, not my cup of tea. And B, it is a musical, which is also not some people's cup of tea. So
Yeah, I was expecting it to not I was expecting it to have topped the 600 million by now, you know.
yeah, I thought so. And then the other thing too is I don't know how it's playing internationally, but my guess is not insane.
Been performing much higher in the United States than
Yeah.
internationally. However, a movie that is doing very well internationally, number two in the box office this past weekend, Zootopia 2.
Get out of here.
Now,
Zootopia 2 was number 2. I would have taken that at 1 guaranteed.
it's made $972 million.
Holy hell.
So it's going to be at a billion next week.
Yeah.
$750 million from the international box office. Well done,
China.
Disney. You guys are doing exactly what you had to do.
Yes. And here's the thing. You think about Zootopia 2, here we have another sequel, just like Wicked for Good. But this movie, A, probably doesn't require Zootopia 1 viewing in order to watch Zootopia 2 and enjoy it. And then B, this movie is literally going to have a theater life all the way through the holiday. So all the way through New Year's. They still got a solid probably 3 to 4 weeks left of being in the top five. So this movie's gonna make a ton of money.
All right, D-Man. Now, number one in the box office, premiering this weekend.
Okay.
Also a sequel,
Okay.
Five Nights at Freddy's 2.
Oh wow, that really was number one. I would not have picked that over Zootopia.
Would
Nope.
not have thought that this would have been released in the second week of December. Seems kind of like a bit of a gamble for Universal. It's made 120 million
Oh
dollars,
my God.
which shocks me because I thought the original Five Nights at Freddy's, sorry, don't hate me, internet, was um
Terrible.
I wouldn't say terrible, just not good.
Okay. Well, I mean, I'm not going to see that. Actually, of all the movies you listed, maybe the one I would go see is Now You See Me, like number five. I don't know if I'd go see any of those other movies. Maybe Zootopia 2, like if I was going with like nieces and nephews and they wanted to go.
Wow.
There's not a lot of movies in the theaters, CP, that I want to see right now,
You
except
want to go
Kill
watch a?
Bill.
I was gonna say you want to watch a 4 hour cut of Kill Bill, 4.5 hours. You should.
That I would. I mean, honestly, this year's been nuts, man. I've seen uh Revenge of the Sith, The Matrix, Jaws, Back to the Future. I mean, I saw Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Oh yeah,
A
yeah,
lot of retro movies this year. I've had a lot of
yeah.
fun going to see movies I've already seen, but never seen on the big screen, except
Hmm.
Revenge of the Sith. I've seen that like 8 times. But
You know,
yeah, it
what
was
do you
pretty
know?
great. So I don't know. I heard, isn't Toy Story coming out? Kill Bill's coming
No, Toy
out.
Story came out.
It already happened.
Yeah, yeah,
And
back in
then I
August.
also heard, I think Wedding Crashers is coming out for a 20th
I
anniversary.
heard that, which that seemed like a weird choice of a 20th anniversary. It might actually be out like now or this weekend or something. Maybe I'll look and see. I mean, fuck it.
I'll, I guess I'm gonna keep going to see movies I've already seen.
Yeah, right.
But
Like, why not?
well, because I honestly like until Avatar comes out, there's really not a lot in the theaters that's compelling to me. That's a bad sign. But I do got to give props to Hollywood and particularly Disney because Zootopia 2 is exactly what the box office needed. Wicked for Good obviously is going to give it a boost, and Avatar's, coming in the wings next week. But Zootopia 2 was what they needed to really end on a high note.
Exactly. So there you go. That's the box office.
Thank you, CP. Well, let's go ahead and dive into our topics this week and absolutely piss you off. So,
It's gonna be one of
first
those
up,
days.
we said we would return to this topic as soon as there were interesting developments, and boy, have there been.
Oh my
But
gosh.
a few episodes back, we talked about the sale of Warner Bros. Discovery, and we went through all of the potential bidders that were in line to make a case that they were the best person to acquire all that IP and HBO Max and all of it. Well, the development is here. Netflix had the winning bid for
God, son of
82.5,
a.
$83 billion. Uh, quite
Goodbye,
nuts.
movies. They're done.
I know you have a lot of thoughts on this. Paramount Skydance actually made a competitive second offer, and we're going to get into that. But they were doomed from the start. I don't know if they were ever going to pick Paramount Skydance. So, and there may be a couple reasons for that. And like I said, we are going to talk about it. But first up, CP, why do you think that the movies are screwed? What is it about this deal that just upsets you?
Well, the sad thing is, whoever ends up with Warner Brothers, it's going to be a seismic shift in the industry. What is the seismic shift that we're looking for? Right. And as
Yeah.
a huge movie fan and someone working in the film industry, I am much more terrified of the proposed super studio that we're getting from the merger between Warner Brothers and Netflix. Why? Hear me out. First of all, Netflix, which already dominates streaming,
Yeah.
is about to acquire the second largest streaming service available.
Can I just really quick make a note? Technically, it's Amazon Prime is number two, but as a streamer, that's actually like an add-on for a lot of people that just get Prime. So even though they do have like Amazon Prime Video and they stream movies and TV, it's not like everybody's subscribing to that just straight up for the quality of that streaming platform. It's
Well,
mostly because people want Amazon Prime.
and the big thing is this: if you looked at the Emmys, right,
Yeah.
and you compare who was nominated and who won, essentially the new Warner Brother Netflix would have taken every single award.
Damn, are you serious?
Yeah, is that not insane?
That's nuts.
So
So,
let's get further into this. Netflix is a business built on delivering movies into the home. They have repeatedly said that they do not believe in theatrical releases. Their business
ooh,
model is built to compete head to head with movie theaters, and they've been doing a great job. Now, while they say after acquiring Warner Brothers that they're going to quote unquote continue releasing theatrically, they then followed up with these statements like, yeah, but the entire theatrical release process doesn't really favor consumers altogether, and we need to shrink the release windows, which, by the way, have already shrunken significantly
yeah,
over the past decade and a half.
right.
So the point is this: do not trust what Netflix executives are saying. They want to kill your movie theater.
Yeah, it seems like it. I mean, and they're hell bent on that with Netflix itself as a platform. It's literally an alternative to movies that they believe consumers prefer over the theater experience. So not only are we looking at fewer and fewer movies probably going to the theaters, they're probably going to be more selective about what actually makes it and would be profitable on the big screen versus a streaming release. But like you said, the actual windows of theaters or movies in the box office is going to be less and less. So you're probably going to have to catch them like opening weekend or 2 or 3 weeks and then they're gone.
So the bigger problem we have is this, though: aside from killing off movie theaters, what about distribution and content creation? Well, with the consolidation of Warner and Netflix, that's one place that now creators are going to be going to
Yeah.
sell movies. And we're talking about the amount of content that this super studio is going to be creating is something like 60% of Hollywood. And
Right.
that's just, you can see the ripple effects throughout the industry, throughout the types of stories that are made. That's part of the reason why the Directors Guild and Christopher Nolan are so concerned. That's part of the reason why the Writers Guild is so concerned, because this is going to shape the type of stories that are created. And I think a lot of people look at a studio like Warner Brothers, which still does put an emphasis on, I think, what we would call true cinema and creating
Sure.
artistic movies, right? We've seen, Dune 2, we've seen One Battle After Another, movies
Loved it.
that they create because they believe in cinema and they're trying to do something versus the Netflix model, which is completely data driven, where they're saying, well, these are the types of movies that audiences want to see. Let's keep cranking those out. Oh, the numbers show that people are not watching this at the rate that we expected. Pull the plug and move on to the next thing. And I think this is going to fundamentally alter the types of movies that we're seeing forever. All right.
Yeah. No, I mean, I agree. I think there's also that when you when you have just like a handful of gatekeepers, it also just that monopolistic effect on everything also means that you no longer have to compete as hard. You know what I mean? Like you're like people are just going to have to accept what we put out because we control 60% of the streaming market and this is what they have. So I don't know. Less competition is usually not a good thing. A perfect example of this is, you go back and look at the product of, the WWF back in the early 90s when they were
Mm-hmm.
the premier wrestling promotion. The quality really went down. The attendance went down, and generally the hype around wrestling went down. It wasn't until WCW stepped into the market and created Monday Nitro to compete head to head. And then
Mm-hmm.
everybody was like, whoa, we got a war and competition is
Mm-hmm.
fierce and
Mm-hmm.
wrestlers are jumping from promotion to promotion. And all of a sudden, there's this wrestling explosion, but it's competition. You need it.
Yeah.
And I don't know if the movies are just going to be, if all comic book movies are essentially going to be decided by straight up like just two companies, you're like, they're probably all going to look and feel the same.
Yeah. So that's my concern. And now, obviously, there's a lot involved with this deal. First of all, um, we have no idea if it's going to even pass regulatory approval. And case in point, there are members of Congress on the left and the right who both are wary of this.
Hmm.
Two, Netflix is still deciding what pieces they want. They definitely want HBO and HBO Max. They definitely want DC, and they want the physical studio lot. Everything else, it seems like they're willing to discard, with the exception of Warner Games, which they've expressed zero interest in and say whatever, we'll take it because we can. So this
Wow.
is interesting to begin with, but Larry and David Ellison are not done.
Okay.
They got their friends in Saudi Arabia and Qatar and the UAE, and they have responded with $108 million
No, billion.
counteroffer. I'm sorry, $1 billion. You are
Billion.
right. And they are going directly to Warner Brothers stockholders and issuing a hostile takeover, trying to appeal to the stockholders, offering them more money per share to flip the board and veto this
The
deal.
Netflix deal. Okay. And hostile takeovers are kind of a rare thing these days. You don't see them as much as I think you did back in like the 80s and 90s, where it wasn't, I wouldn't say it was commonplace, but it was much more accepted as like a way to take over a company. Like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
maybe we got to do a
Mm-hmm.
hostile takeover. You really don't see them that much anymore. Usually these
No.
big conglomerates all get on board, and the deal that's announced is the deal that, needs regulatory approval. But in this case, yeah, it is nuts that, Paramount Skydance would basically step in here and be like, we think our deal is absolutely better than Netflix's. And they're going to try to flip people to come there to their side. So
Now, for audiences, obviously, if Paramount ends up, this is also still a seismic shift for the industry, right? Two of the oldest original studios are coming together.
mhm.
This is still going to decrease the number of places that creatives can go to pitch content. I think the only saving grace here is um, Paramount Plus as a streaming service is rather small on the basis of subscriptions. So if it's
Yeah.
combined with HBO Max, it is increasing, but it's not going to completely dominate the marketplace. The other
Yeah.
concern is, or I guess the other major plus is the fact that since David Ellison took over at Paramount, he has maintained a commitment to releasing movies theatrically.
Okay.
So the movie theater experience is not dead if Paramount gets a hold of this. Now, there's obviously lots of concerns with people from the fact that this whole Warner Media and the Paramount bid is for all of Warner Brothers, all their cable assets, everything that they have.
Okay.
So the problem is, so now you still have this super media conglomerate that is Paramount Skydance, Warner Brother Discovery, and TikTok. So don't
Oh,
forget about that. So
okay.
what does that mean? Well, a whole bunch of other problems. And then some people are skeptical about a bunch of Middle Eastern
Sure.
funds run by the government buying equity in these American institutions, which quite frankly are integral in shaping the
Our
world's
culture.
opinion of American culture in the
Yeah.
United States. So this is like a lot. We don't know what's going to happen, but
Well, and just as some examples of Warner Brothers IP, I mean, you have Casablanca, Citizen Kane, the entire DC universe, Harry Potter, Looney Tunes. There's a lot there that's coming in. That's just a handful of them, but it's definitely something that like when you're a streamer, when you're Netflix, you're like, hey, as much content as we can get is what's going to get people to subscribe to our service. And legacy content apparently is worth $80 billion.
well, remember
So
for 1 year of Friends, Netflix paid Warner Brothers 8 years ago what, $800 million?
I think it was like 1 billion maybe for one
Insane
year.
for one
Yeah.
year.
So now they own it, right? Friends. There's another one that's on, HBO Max as a streaming service. Something else I heard, CP, and maybe you can elaborate on this because I'm not, this is only a theory, but I also heard that Netflix could potentially have no intention of ever actually buying Warner Brothers Discovery or this deal going through, and that instead, what they've done is essentially frozen their closest competition as a direct streamer, sort of leapfrogging Amazon Prime in
Hmm.
there.
Hmm.
And until this either passes or fails, like the regulatory elements, or the hostile takeover is successful, everything at Brothers Discovery is basically frozen. They can't do anything because all these assets are part of the sale. So you
Hmm.
can't like make any major moves, and they could have just basically, screwed over their closest competition, even though like they're supposed to be merging, or I mean, it's an acquisition, so I guess Netflix is it's not a merger.
But it's a, yeah, yeah. I have heard that from some insiders, and it makes good sense in the sense that what a way to stifle the growth of your competition. What better
Yeah,
way to do it than just say, "Hey, let's get you tied up in federal court and in this internal proxy struggle and hostile takeovers for the next 2.5 years, while we just sit here and continue doing what we're doing."
yeah, right. And there really is something to that because you think about, say, HBO Max. If you're not an HBO Max subscriber right now, you're probably thinking like, oh, well, I'll just subscribe to Netflix and all that content's going to come over until
Exactly.
the deal goes through. Like HBO Max is still going to exist, and I think, like you said, Netflix actually put out a statement that said that no, they're going to remain separate streamer or apps or streaming services. But part of you is like, I mean, yeah, right. Like you paid all this money for this, and yes, technically now you're getting two subscription prices and two opportunities to advertise. But realistically, you're like, of course it's going to
Just
fold
roll
into
all that
Netflix.
content into one thing. Yeah.
Yeah, of course it's gonna fold into Netflix. Like there's no reason to be completely operating two different services. It's just content.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're gonna
No.
eventually it's all gonna go to Netflix, assuming that deal goes through. So one of the final questions before we move on from this topic I have for you is there any upside here? Is anybody excited about this deal other than those two companies?
Probably, David Zaslav is.
He gets to remain in charge of Warner Brothers or whatever, get
Yeah,
his
my
side.
understanding with this deal is he's going to continue, I guess, with the Discovery Media assets, which are being spun off. He's going to continue with that, just making, $2 billion off the sale of everything. And so he's richer and still doing, with the company that he built. So I guess he's going to be happy. I mean, I'm assuming that there are people who are listening to this podcast that are like, this is amazing. I'm so excited. I as a creative, as a movie lover, I tend not to see the bright side in this merger because I just I don't think that we want anyone in Hollywood having that much control of the types of movies that we're getting. I
Okay. I mean,
think
I
I
actually agree with you here. I mean, I know I was over in Indiana when I got CP's initial text, and he was like, Hollywood as we know it is over. And I mean, he went right to that dark place. So I'm assuming, for individuals, for creatives, the upside here is minimal because whenever you get sort of a monopoly or really a massive concentration, and just less competition, it's usually just not good and not good for consumers either because
and I think the real shame in this whole thing is we have to go back to how did Warner Brothers end up in this position, right? And repeatedly it's about debt. And a lot of that was when AT&T bought up Warner Brothers,
Mhm.
which I actually thought was a very interesting move for AT&T. They had been acquiring a lot of stuff on the telecom space. They had bought DirecTV. They had not been reading the tea leaves right. And that was right when the world shifted away from cable satellite television into streaming, right?
Yeah.
So they were burdened down with a ton of debt, not sure what to do. They rolled in Discovery Media and kind of dumped the Discovery Media company and all AT&T's debt they shifted over to Warner Brothers. Why? Because
Yeah.
Warner Brothers, when it makes money, makes a lot of money, but all that debt really bogged it down. And
Damn.
the shame is that debt is the exact reason why Warner Brothers was willing to sell itself out to anyone in the name of getting out from it. And I just think that you look back and you're like, wow, how the mighty have fallen. What a disaster this has been for Warner Brothers. And the best thing for Hollywood, and I think the best thing for consumers, would have been if some other company came in and said, hey, let's buy up these media assets. Let's collect some data on the back end. Let's use it for analysis and content creation and all these other things, who was not currently a player in Hollywood. Because unfortunately, either way,
Yeah.
creatives and consumers are ending up with fewer choices. And that's a problem.
Well, and I'm just hoping, CP, that we're not watching the demise of theaters. I love going to the movies. I know we said earlier we haven't been in a sec, but it's probably one of my favorite things to do is go to the theaters. So I'd be really sad if this was, truly the end for theaters and it went out with, a giant monopolistic acquisition like this.
Well, the other thing that's a shame is Netflix keeps skewing the numbers when they're talking about it. When Netflix is referring to consumers and streamers and where it places in terms of
Yeah.
users, it's skewing its own numbers intentionally by pulling in things like YouTube and TikTok and Instagram to make it look like it's a smaller player than it really is. When you compare it head to head with the other streaming services, it by far has the largest consumer base, it has by far the largest number of downloads, and by far the largest number of use time. So
Yeah.
anytime Netflix puts out these things where it says, oh, Netflix is only 15% of the market space, that's essentially a blatant lie.
Well, all right. I have one final question for you, and I just want to know, are you more excited for Netflix's Batman or James Gunn's Batman? Or are they
Well,
the same?
they're the same because my understanding is Netflix has decided to keep James Gunn in place, which, as you can tell, my day just keeps getting worse and fucking worse.
Well, maybe they're going to bring back the Snyderverse. They spent a lot of money. They could do it.
Ugh, such a shame.
All right. Well, on that note, I want to talk about something that will make you happy. I mean,
Oh,
I feel
well, I
like I
like to be
need to,
happy.
I know, I want to uplift you because it seems like you're really sad. I mean, literally, if you could see CP right now, like his head is down. He looks sad.
I'm very sad, D man.
So, on that note, I wanted to talk about the fact that Walt Disney and OpenAI just cut a deal so that OpenAI, both in ChatGPT and Sora, can now use all the IP and creative from Walt Disney in their AI slop.
Dude, what the hell is wrong with Disney? This was the company that we thought from the defensive creative was going to be the one to stand up to the big AI algorithms and say, hey, nope, we own this. You cannot have it. So what do? Instead of the lengthy court battle, they just say, hey, if you buy it from us, we're cool. Take all our content, take all our IP, just make sure you keep licensing it.
Well, and isn't this just like the biggest admission ever? If anybody was going to fight this, both in court and litigate it and everything, who gets to control the IP? This seems like the biggest admission by one of the biggest IP companies in the entire world to be like, you know what? Instead of fighting these tech companies, we just have to embrace it. And they're basically, I mean, sort of just giving away the farm here.
And that's how I feel because guess what? If Disney had buckled down and been willing to fight this, I think Disney could have won.
Well,
But instead they caved and they're like, "Hey, we're making our money like we have this great new partnership with ChatGPT."
here's the cool thing. We can now make a Star Wars movie if we want.
And it might even get shown on Disney Plus.
I mean, maybe. So if you want to make a Star Wars movie, CP, I mean, I guess now, given the assets that we have access to via Sora, we could absolutely do it. I mean, we can create original characters and things within the Star Wars universe. I don't know if that makes it canon, but we could all, I mean, I'm assuming Disney will put limits on this deal. So like, you can't make Mickey Mouse a murderer or like a serial killer.
Yeah,
There,
probably.
there's got to be some limits, right? You can't
Yeah,
be like,
yeah.
you're gonna have I want to make my own version of Simba and Scar fighting, and it's gonna get real bloody and gory. They're probably like, no, you can't do that. But you can sing Hakuna Matata,
God,
Can
yeah.
it's just such a weird deal because to me, we've been talking about AI on this podcast for probably the last year, on and off.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And this is the first time that a major studio, or even for that matter, like we said, just a major IP owner is like, you know what? We're going to embrace it. Like, what does this mean for all the creatives that actually created all this work? Do they get a cut of this money? Probably
Mm-hmm.
not. Disney's like,
Probably
we
not.
own we own the IP, so we get to do whatever we want with it. And you're like, for real? You're going to let people just hang out with Darth Vader?
Well, again, I'm just like, the value in IP, right, is controlling how people use it, right? And how people consume it. And so I think Disney thinks that they're doing this by saying, well, hey, like, isn't getting something off of this better than nothing?
Yeah, right. Kind of.
But we've talked about this from, in previous conversations on this podcast. There's actually legal precedent that sides with Disney in many of these cases. And I think that if they actually had the balls to take this to court, they could have won outright. And then not only would they maintain the control, but they would, have made money back from OpenAI and everybody wins. I think that they see this as a win in the short term, but in the long term, I think it's doing the exact fear that people had, which is you're diluting IP, you're destroying content, and the people who actually made it are getting screwed double.
Well, okay, so here's a few things that I wanted to say on this. And first is that on the same day that they cut this deal with OpenAI, they also sent a cease and desist order and threatened litigation against Google's Gemini. And it was interesting because on the one hand, while here they are cutting a deal and essentially, capitulating to these big tech companies and AI for whatever reason, they're also fighting another company, you know.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, we're willing to play ball as long as Disney profits in the end. Kind of weird because you would think, like you said, they would fight it tooth and nail. I mean, Disney maybe even coming up with their own AI platform or AI
Mm-hmm.
algorithms
Mm-hmm.
versus embracing these other ones. And it's also sad because the way the AI companies worked, particularly OpenAI, and now Google's doing this, but Grok did this too at XAI, where they basically said, we're going to rip off all the IP. We're just going to do it and
Until
apologize
somebody
for it
stops us.
later.
Yep.
Yeah, we're going to do it. And it ends up that nobody's standing in their way. They're just going to do it. So that made me sad because it's basically like them being like, oh, uh, we're going to go into the marketplace. We are going to train our AI on all this intellectual property, all of this protected content.
Mm-hmm.
Essentially, do it. I mean, I'm guessing if you were to actually litigate this all the way out illegally,
Mm-hmm.
and instead of anybody standing up and being like, "We need to take this all the way," they're basically like, "I guess you guys win."
Now,
So that kind of sucks.
I guess the only thing I can think of is that Disney's game this out, and they're comparing this to sort of the iTunes solution, right?
Yeah.
Music companies were losing so much money trying to fight piracy. So what happens? Apple comes out with iTunes, and suddenly now you can buy songs directly, and piracy pretty much stops because it was just easier to do it the above board legal way.
Yeah, but sadly, creatives and the artists that provided all that music only get pennies. I
Yep.
mean, maybe fractions of pennies on streams. I don't even think they get a penny.
Well, and this is the thing. I don't think that we know that Disney doesn't care about the creatives that built the IP, right?
Yeah.
They just care about protecting the shareholders who benefit from the IP. So for them, they can turn around and say, look, we've set a precedent that we can threaten to sue Google unless Google wants to pay us, $1 billion a year to use our IP. And now we just made $2 billion instead of spending millions of dollars in court and losing out on the
Yeah.
AI front.
It's an
It's
interesting battle. I mean, it's just I hate the precedent that the AI companies basically stepped in and said, "Hey, we're going to use all this copyrighted, all this protected content." And everybody's like, "Whoa, whoa, that's crazy." And you would think a company of Disney's size and power would be like, "Yeah, we can't have it." And
Well,
basically they're like, as long as
and
we get a piece of it."
and the problem is, and I think that's it. And sadly, had Disney gone through with the court case, all the little guys could have won in the end, right? All
Yeah.
the little one-off creators whose story was ripped off, whose artwork was ripped off, they would suddenly have legal precedent to stand on. Whereas now, essentially, the narrative has shifted, and it's like, well, cut a deal with OpenAI, and they'll pay you $5 a year for the content that they stole from you, and take it or leave it. That's the best you're gonna get, bro.
Yeah, kind of. That's the sad part. I think the deals, the royalty deals that people get for the hard work that they put on, put into in this case, train these models and now essentially steal their creative work as output in both photos and video and whatever other content they come out with. It sucks because they're not going to revenue share in that. Only probably the big conglomerates. So
Mm-hmm.
that definitely kind of sucks. I did want to mention too, CP, that the deal explicitly excludes actor likenesses and voices, but includes animated characters, costumes, props, vehicles, and iconic environments. So when it comes to actors, it seems that there was some sort of legal snafu that like you can hang out with Darth Vader, but you can't hang out with Luke Skywalker. Now you probably can hang out with Luke Skywalker, but one that doesn't embody Mark Hamill's likeness or
Well,
his voice.
now I don't know if you know this, and this may be something we'll go into in another episode, but there is a court case going on right now about actor likeness.
Okay.
And it has to do with a little movie called Revenge of the Sith
Okay.
and the likeness of Grand Moff Tarkin,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay.
right? And so part of it is Disney probably cannot include that until that court case is wrapped up. And I know that it's very complicated, and some people argue that it's a very clear-cut legal precedent set by the signing of Tarkin's rights and an image in
Hmm.
advance of the creation of the film. But then other people say, well, there was really not any monetary damage, so what are you going to do? So
Well, and
I
it's
think until
interesting.
that's cleared up, we're not going to know the actor likeness thing.
Well, the actor likeness thing is also interesting when it comes to does a studio, as it relates to a character, own an actor's likeness and voice, right?
Mm-hmm.
As part of the IP that they, have protected versus you've seen those deals where actors literally sign deals giving permission to use their likeness and voice. So it's interesting because how that all pans out, it might be different today than it was 10 years ago because now you have generations of you that are completely beyond anybody's control.
Mm-hmm.
If I can generate, you've probably seen it, like the videos of Sam Altman or Elon Musk. I mean, you can make them do whatever you want them to do in AI
Mm-hmm.
videos,
Mm-hmm.
and so
Yeah.
is that something that's going to happen to people from IP and different stuff? Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. I
So
agree.
something else that was interesting, and you sort of mentioned this when I brought up the topic, but it was also included in the press release that they are allowing fans to create short user-generated videos that they may have a curated selection potentially being streamed on Disney Plus.
See, I actually think that this is a smart move. I don't think it should be limited to Sora. I think instead of all the cease and desist that they throw out on YouTube, I think it should be cease and desist or submit through the portal here for Disney Plus, and we'll happily take your crappy Star Wars short film.
That is interesting though, like Disney Plus building in some user-generated content around their own IP. Like if you were to separate the whole AI, OpenAI deal, and maybe let's just say Disney had their own, oh, well, maybe it was built right into Disney Plus, but they had their own AI algorithm and they're like, hey, we're going to give users the opportunity to interact with their favorite characters on video and have fun with that. That actually seems kind of cool.
I mean, it's interesting. We'll see how well it does. We'll see how fair they are with the content that they curate. I just,
You know what I
you
mean?
know,
Like imagine like
yeah.
me making a video where like, I finished putting up my last Christmas ornament on my Christmas tree, and then Darth Vader comes in with his lightsaber and chops my tree down. Like that could be fun.
Have you made this already?
No, because that deal just happened. But I mean, that would be pretty neat, I think. Like if you could do fun things like that. It's just I at the end of the day, like what I really hate about this is Disney's lack of commitment to the ethical usage of AI and protection of creators' rights. It seems that they've basically said we're going to forego that. So I don't know. I think that's the problem. I don't think this deal protects all the animators, designers, and writers who actually
Mm-hmm.
created these
Mm-hmm.
characters, and it essentially sells out the creative, for a piece of the AI pie.
Ugh.
So,
See, kids, don't go up and try and become a filmmaker because there's no future for you.
well,
Become
and
a welder.
that's what's, this whole AI thing is, I think that's what's sad is to an extent, it's like, are these AI, large language models and, video and image generators a tool for people to use? If you use it as a tool, right? Like it's really neat that you could have AI generate uh the background that you're going to use as your plate for the green screen. That to me is kind of cool. The problem is that they're just ripping everybody off and they're not necessarily using it as a tool. They're foregoing the filmmaking process in
Yep.
favor of prompting,
Yep.
which to me just feels a little sad. I don't want to forego filmmaking. I love filmmaking.
Well, you should because there's no future in it.
Well, one of the other things that made news this week, CP, was actually while we're talking about actors, I don't know if you saw the interview that Quentin Tarantino did. He was on a podcast talking about specific actors that he doesn't like. And he specifically called out Paul Dano, Owen Wilson, and Matthew Lillard, but particularly Paul Dano from There Will Be Blood as one of the weakest male actors in SAG. And he felt that he did not hold his own next to Daniel Day-Lewis in that movie, and that he called it was supposed to be a what did he call it, a two punch or something like that, and he said
Hmm.
hey, it was basically a one punch. And I mean, he really talked shit on this guy. I mean, what are your thoughts on a working filmmaker? Like, it'd be one thing if Tarantino to me had finished all his movies and retired from filmmaking and is just giving his thoughts on a podcast, fine, but he's still working. Like, it's weird to openly criticize your peers that way. I mean, I guess not his peers. He's, Paul Dano. I don't know if he's a director, but as an actor, your collaborators, that's weird to me.
So, first of all, in defense of Paul Dano, no one really holds their own when you compare them to Daniel Day-Lewis, right?
Yeah.
Like Mary, maybe like Gary Oldman, but like for the most part, like Daniel Day-Lewis is in an acting league of his own. Now, the thing is this: I actually respect Tarantino for having the balls to say what he thinks. And the reason why is this. Everyone in Hollywood does the whole like, oh, it was so great. They're such talented, all Hollywood interviews are the same. We don't talk bad about our coworkers, which is probably just principally like a good rule because that's kind of what they always told us like when
The
we were in
golden
like
rule. You
first
don't have
grade,
anything.
right?
Yeah, you don't
But
have anything nice to say. Don't say anything at
I
all.
respect Tarantino for saying, "Hey, I don't like him. I don't like any of these people." And as far as filmmakers go, Tarantino's kind of the type of person who is in a position that I think when he talks about movies, we respect him. Because in Tarantino's defense, when Tarantino loves something, he glowingly endorses it.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
I mean, Spielberg's not going to be the guy. Nolan's not going to be the guy to go out and criticize actors that they don't like, right? That's just not their personality. But Tarantino, that is very Tarantino, just being like, this is what I think, and I don't care what anybody thinks about it. So,
Yeah. I guess to me it just comes across a little bit as like I don't remember Paul Dano's performance being criticized. I mean, obviously, like you said, Daniel Day-Lewis is getting all the glowing reviews and he's the guy that's winning the awards. It wasn't Paul Dano, but I don't remember. It's not like, you know, Tarantino's grabbing low-hanging fruit here where he's like, I mean, like we all watched that movie and it was like obviously this guy is completely out of his league. I don't think people felt that way. I mean, I don't really think if you were to ask people, who's the worst actor in Hollywood, that they're going to land on Paul Dano before Tarantino's interview.
Yeah.
And like this guy's been in The Sopranos. I know he was like what's his name? Tony's son.
Yeah.
Uh
Yeah.
it was his friend. He was the Riddler in Matt Reeves' The Batman. I thought that performance was pretty great. It wasn't Heath Ledger epic, but it was good.
Yeah.
Um
I mean, again, I mean, I think the thing too is there's a lot of actors who you could give criticism to, right?
sure.
Lots of actors take roles that aren't in the typical lane that they run in, and sometimes it works out really well, other times it falls short, and you're like, well, okay, that's not you. But that doesn't mean you're a bad actor. It just means you're the wrong actor in this instance, right?
Yeah, I mean, Tarantino went as far as calling Paul Dano the giant flaw in There Will Be Blood. He called him weak sauce and uninteresting. And he suggested that Austin Butler would have been better. I mean, he literally picked another actor. He's like, I mean, I would just get that guy out of there.
Now, again, in defense of Tarantino, not that he needs defending, but he did say that he thought There Will Be Blood would be great, or is great. He said the only flaw that he had with it as a movie, and the reason why, he doesn't consider it among the top five best movies ever, is because
Yeah.
of Paul Dano. So, I mean, yes, he then went on to crap on Paul Dano a lot, but like, if you're gonna say something could be the best movie ever, you have to explain why it's not and what's the weakness. And his argument is Paul Dano. I I feel like Tarantino, yes, dug his own hole a little bit, but I mean, we also could see it where, I don't know, if maybe Robert Downey Jr. played that role, we all would have been like, yeah, that probably could have been better.
I mean, now I don't know. I would love to see Paul Dano in a Tarantino movie. Like to see what Tarantino would try to do with him. I don't think he would ever cast him clearly, and I think he knows that, which is why he was so confident in saying what he's saying. He's like, I only have one movie left and Paul Dano won't be in it.
Paul, that's
But
not a Paul Dano movie.
and apparently Owen Wilson and Matthew Lillard, who I did see, Matthew Lillard was giving an interview somewhere and he did mention that like it does kind of hurt to have your name thrown in there like that because he was like, Tarantino's a guy I've always respected. Obviously, could I have had some better performances? And probably, but at the same time, he was like, it's not for. It doesn't mean that there's nothing great in there, right?
Hey, I really like Matthew Lillard as Shaggy.
Yeah, and then I mean, there was also an element of Tarantino sort of being like, these guys aren't. I don't know. I don't want to say masculine, but he kind of made it seem. I don't know. He came across to me. I listened to the thing, and it came across as he was kind of like they're bitches. They're weak. They're not
Well, I mean, no offense to
strong men.
Matthew Lillard, but like when you think about him playing Stu in
Scream,
Scream, he's like kind of a whiny bitch. You stabbed me too deep, man. I'm bleeding here.
but he's kind of memorable. Like
Yeah, no, no. I mean, and he's supposed to be kind of the bitchy friend in that, right?
yeah,
So
I don't know. That was just interesting to me. I wanted to bring that up. That's something that I want to throw out to the listeners. Just hear from you guys about what are your thoughts on a working director sort of criticizing his, potential collaborators. And do you think Tarantino's right in this instance? I know CP was like, hey, I defend the guy's right to be as critical as he wants. And clearly Tarantino doesn't seem bothered by whatever backlash there would
no,
be. He's like, I'm not
Tarantino.
working with Paul Dano and I'm already Tarantino, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But we'll throw that one out to the listeners. Would love to get your guys' thoughts on that. So before we end the episode this week, CP, I also wanted to maybe just hop on that holiday train. I know Christmas is like 2 weeks out or almost 2 weeks
Yeah.
out now. So I figured, why not do a little sort of behind the scenes facts or behind the scenes trivia about some of, our favorite Christmas movies. So if you're ready, let's just run through a few.
Let's do it, son.
All right. Well, in A Christmas Story, There's a scene where Ralphie is waiting for Santa, and the props department accidentally gave 12-year-old Peter Billingsley real chewing tobacco instead of fake candy he was supposed to have, and it actually made him ill on set.
Really, I did not. I've never heard that story.
Yeah. Uh, and then I don't know if you knew this, but the giant department store where Ralphie sees Santa was actually filmed in the now defunct Higbee's in Cleveland, Ohio. So I didn't even know Higbee's was real. That's before my
I
time.
did know it was all filmed in Cleveland, but I did not know Higbee's was real.
A fun fact I know, which isn't listed here, but because it was filmed in Cleveland, that's why he lives on Cleveland Street. That was a nod to where they actually filmed it, even though it's what's the town they're in?
Holman, Indiana. Yeah.
Holman, Indiana. Yeah. Let's see. The sound of Flick's tongue sticking to the flagpole was created by pulling a vacuum hose through a drum head, which that sounds like one of those cool Ben Burt creating like Chewbacca's, roar,
Hmm.
like they do it, or it's like a scuba diving mask is Darth Vader's breathing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You're like, oh, that's really neat. Like, I don't
Yeah.
know. It's just cool. That's how they were able to do it. Uh, this one's pretty common. In A Christmas Story, Bob Clark has a cameo in the department store. He's actually the
Yep.
one that yells like, "Hey
This is
kid,
the
get
end
to
of
the
the
back."
line.
Yeah, this is the end of the line.
Starts all the way back there. Yeah.
Let's see. In Elf, we have another sickness where Will Ferrell generally suffered from headaches and insomnia because during filming, he had to consume so much sugar playing Buddy. So it also says that he intentionally did this to remain sort of in character. He only ate things with sugar.
Yeah, that
But
sounds kind of like Will Ferrell brought that upon himself.
I don't know if you know this. It has that vibe, but when they're walking through New York City, where Buddy's like skipping across the street, it has that I think it's Pennies from Heaven is playing.
Yeah.
Those shots were shot illegally and guerrilla style with no permits because they were trying to catch real New Yorkers' reaction to Will Ferrell in the Buddy the Elf costume.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and then on that same note, there's that famous Jack in the Box scare where Buddy's generally terrified when the Jack in the Box comes out. It
Yeah.
ends up that they had basically had it timed. He knew how long it would go and he was going to react. But the director ended up having a remote trigger where he could do it early. And that way they would capture a genuinely terrified reaction from Will Ferrell.
No, okay, that's funny.
Something else that was really interesting is other than some of the snow effects in Elf, everything else was a practical effect. It was all shot with claymation and stop motion, and almost everything. So I think they said digitally it was only some snow.
Really? That's kind of
Yeah.
cool.
I think we talked about this when we talked about Home Alone years ago, but John Candy, playing the Polka King in the Midwest, he filmed all
Polka,
his scenes in a
polka.
single 23-hour day of shooting. But I think we
Wild.
did mention that one. I remember because we
Yeah.
we talked about Home Alone maybe God CP like 2 years ago now.
Yeah, yeah, we should talk about it again.
Let's see. Marv Daniel Stern. He actually did two stunts. So they had stuntmen doing a lot of these effects, falling
Yeah,
downstairs
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
whatever, hitting the wall, swinging, all that. He actually did two of his own stunts. So the first is the famous tarantula scene. He said he
Yep.
would do one take, and he doesn't actually scream. That's added later.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But there's another stunt that he does. It's when he climbs in through the window in bare feet, and on the ground are a bunch of ornaments, and they look like glass ornaments. I guess they were made of like candy glass, which is like a Hollywood thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But in order to give the scene the realness that it needs, so basically in all the other scenes where he's barefoot, he's wearing sort of like big hobbit feet.
Yeah, yeah,
They're
yeah.
like prosthetics, so he can walk through the snow and he's not getting like frozen feet. In this one shot, he actually uses his real feet to stomp on those ornaments.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and apparently it was incredibly painful. He didn't end up with any major injuries, but yeah, that's real. That's not him faking it. And obviously it wasn't glass, but it was just I don't know, one of those interesting things.
Huh. I did not know that was the second stunt that he did.
In National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, the Griswolds' famous house is a set on the Warner Brothers backlot and is the exact same house used as Murtaugh's house in Lethal Weapon.
Oh, I did know that.
I didn't know
It's
that.
wild, right?
I've never heard that ever. Let's see. When Clark Griswold snaps and punches the plastic lawn Santa when the house won't the lights won't turn on,
Mm-hmm.
Chevy Chase actually broke his pinky finger on the plastic prop and just continued filming. So that reminds me of Aragorn kicking that helmet in Two Towers and he like breaks his toe.
Yeah, yeah,
And they leave in his real scream where he's like, ah,
yeah.
ah. And then they're like, are you okay? He's like, no. It's,
Yeah.
the highly chaotic scene where the squirrel jumps out of the tree was so wild because the trained squirrel died before filming and they had to use an untrained one
Wait,
instead.
wait, wait. First of all, who's the guy that's like, you know what I want to
There's,
do with my future? Train squirrels.
I mean, that's crazy. I didn't even know that they had trained squirrels. I guess only in the movies, you know?
Yeah, right. Oh my gosh.
Well, they used an
I
untrained
love
one,
it. They're
which
just like they send out like a PA. They're just like, hey, just like go grab a squirrel over there, and he just like lets it loose in the house.
I always love that behind the scenes. I think we talked about this too in when we discussed Raiders of the Lost Ark, but there's this famous scene where he's in that pit and there's a bunch of snakes.
Hmm.
I always loved that there was some PA or some producer on set, and Spielberg's like, "There's just not enough snakes, not for the effect." He's like, "So I need more snakes. You got to go get more." And they're like, wherever they are filming this scene, and this guy's like, I mean, it was like the 80s. Like, there's not the internet. He's like, I just had to start calling people and be like, "Do you know any snake wranglers?" Like, he's just calling people all around the world, like, "Hey, can you bring all 50 of your snakes here tomorrow? We'll pay for your flight and whatever you need." You know, it's like such a random thing.
Totally random. Totally random.
And this one's not really like trivia so much as just interesting. The Griswold children, Rusty and Aubrey, were recast for every single movie in the Vacation series, um, for no reason.
I mean, I always wondered that. I was like, was there like a dispute or did the kids get too old? Because even, I think their ages even swap, right?
Yeah, I
At one point.
technically, I believe Rusty is the same in Vacation and European Vacation, but Aubrey changes,
Hmm.
and then Rusty changes, and then they both change for Vegas Vacation. So I don't know. It was just funny. I was like reading the facts. They're like, yeah, um, no one knows why. It's not like it was like a deliberate choice, and it's also not like you said there was some contract dispute and like they just refused. They
That's
were like, I don't
funny.
know, just cast somebody else.
Just cast somebody else. We're good.
In How the Grinch Stole Christmas, the Jim Carrey 2000 version, Jim Carrey felt the 8-hour process of applying the heavy makeup, including the contact lenses, was so torturous that the studio hired a CIA specialist trained to teach agents how to endure torture to work with Jim Carrey
Oh my
so that
gosh. That's
he could
wild.
get through. Because I guess they did, they do the initial test. So this is before he's actually on set. This is when they're like building the costume. They got to
Hmm.
test it out. And he hated it so much that they brought in a CIA agent to basically be like, here's how you get through torture.
Here's how, when someone's trying to torture you for information, you deal with it. There you go, Jim.
Yep.
That's funny.
Uh, Oddly enough, this is weird, but just a fact. A majority of the Grinch's green costume and hair was made of dyed yak hair.
Hmm. Interesting. You know.
Yeah. Let's see. In Miracle on 34th Street, this is something you probably know. This is 1947, so we're going back a little bit, the black and
Yep,
white
back in the
version.
day. Back in the day.
Uh, they did not stage a fake parade. They actually filmed at the 1946 Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade in New York City.
Oh, that's cool.
So that was the real deal. They're just there filming, that's pretty neat.
Yeah.
Uh, in the Santa Claus, Tim Allen's massive multi-layered Santa suit included a cooling system, but required 3 hours to get on, which seems crazy long. Like the
Yeah, kind of.
Grinch makes sense, but you're telling me it took 3 hours for
Tim Allen to zip up a fat suit.
Yeah, like Tim Allen to become Santa. Like I can't imagine that mall Santas take that long. That even the Macy's Day Parade Santa takes that long.
Yeah, but
Like,
they don't have to put on this prosthetic beard, you know.
yeah.
A lot of them just bring their own, you know, bring their own packing naturally.
Oh, this is interesting. The actor who played Charlie, Eric Lloyd, broke his front teeth right before filming began and had to wear temporary dental prosthetics for the entire movie.
That's funny.
It doesn't say how he broke his front teeth because that's kind of nuts.
Great.
And then finally, in The Holiday, actress Cameron Diaz reportedly ran about 7 miles a day in heels while filming the scenes of her running through the snowy English countryside.
Oh my gosh,
That
that's
seems
insane
exaggerated.
and excessive.
I mean, my guess is she didn't really run that much. I mean, they didn't have Apple Watches or shit back then. How do
Well, I
they?
mean, also feel like I don't know.
But
Feel like they would have just
props.
driven her up and been like, okay, run like 10 feet. Okay, you're done. But yeah, still, that's a workout. That's intense. I tend not to wear heels when I'm running, but you know, that's just a personal choice. So,
Yeah, how much did Sylvester Stallone run in Rocky 2?
and
You know,
he did it without
in his
heels.
montage. No, but that's really the catch is whatever it actually was, whether it was 7 miles or 2 miles. The point is that she was doing it in snow in heels because it was filmed in the
Hmm.
English countryside.
Yeah,
So that's pretty nuts.
pretty nuts.
But all right, CP. Well, that actually does it for a little behind the
Well, those
scenes.
are awesome facts. Thanks for showing them. Obviously, you know, it still is holiday time, despite the fact that Hollywood's burning up and that, you know, all
Burning
content's
down.
going to be made by AI. Thank you for reminding us that movies once upon a time were great.
CP, I might try and use AI to make like a really nice Christmas movie, but I'm gonna make it just for you.
All
So, and
right.
maybe I'll share it with our listeners.
Well, now
So,
you can use some great Disney characters if you use Sora, so I
how
applaud you.
mad would you be if I made like a video of you and James Gunn having hot cocoa?
Well, I would be pretty pissed.
You're like, that's not real. I did not
That
have
is
hot cocoa with that
AI.
guy. Yeah, I did not have hot cocoa with that guy.
Ugh. See, this
All right.
AI thing's gonna suck.
Well, on that note, CP, that is our final topic for this episode. So I do want to throw it out to our listeners. You know, what are your thoughts on the Netflix Warner Brothers Discovery slash HBO Max streaming deal? Do you think it's actually going to go through and pass, regulatory measures? Do you think Netflix is trying to play their biggest competitor? Or do you think they're dead serious and they want all that IP for themselves? And then what are your thoughts on that hostile takeover? Because it's pretty crazy. So I had fun talking about that with UCP because I
Well,
know you
yeah.
get very heated about this. And this probably won't be the last time we actually talk about it. But as you mentioned, Walt Disney and OpenAI cut that deal. So to our listeners, are you going to be making any Disney style AI slop that we'll see in your timelines? Maybe I'll see you on Disney Plus. I don't know.
uh,
Let us know your thoughts. And finally, I mentioned earlier, let us know your thoughts on Quentin Tarantino just talking shit. But be sure to keep the conversations going. We appreciate you guys tuning in and listening. It's so much fun. You can follow the show at filmmakerscompass.com, where we have a feed of all past episodes, as well as links to our social media, but Instagram, where you can find us at Film Comp Podcast or at Film Comp Pod. And you can follow me at Big Kid D-Man. CP?
You can follow me at NDCal5. Thank you for hanging out and talking movies with us while we still can. We'll see you next week, and until then, keep watching movies.